What's going on, people? Welcome back to the opposition preview as we look ahead to the game against Brentford on the weekend. And I'm joined by a very special guest, Lewis from Beesotted Brentford podcast. Billy, of course, suggested you, Lewis. So Billy knows his stuff. I'm pretty sure you know your stuff as well. I mean, Brentford fans clearly know about their football. Every time we have a Brentford fan on here, it's always been a good chat. So look, we'll be talking about the game as always. If you do enjoy the content, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to not miss out on future Palace content, and let us know your thoughts ahead of the game in the comment section down below. Let's see if what Billy's, let's see what if Lewis says gives you a bit of optimism or it makes you a bit more nervous about the game. Because Lewis, let's start off with Brentford. First of all, thank you for coming onto the channel. Really appreciate your time. Brentford this season, different team. I mean, you've been a solid team in the past as well, but right now, as we're talking, sitting 8th. I think 10 games unbeaten that you mentioned right before we started. Just got a point against the league leaders. What's the difference this season compared to the previous season?
It's incredible. I mean, I think we got off to a brilliant start last season, and for a while it was looking really iffy about whether we're going to stay up. And then we just turned it around to, in the final quarter of the season. But this season's we've just been on a different level. I think the defence is now really tight. We brought in Ben Mee on a free from Burnley, who's been one of our best players, if not the best player this season. And so we just always, almost always look really secure at the back. And we've just built from that, really. We're not giving many goals away. And then we've got a bit of, that really good combination up front from Ivan Toney and Brian Mbeumo. So, but it's the defence that's the real strength, actually. So I think Thomas Frank just gets more and more savvy as it comes to how to get results in the Premier League as he goes along. He's really responded well, I think, to the law change around the number of subs you can use. From day one, he's been typically using all 5 and using them in quite a clever and effective way. And he's learned to mix it up. Against Arsenal, we went long, much more than we normally would do, but they couldn't deal with that. Ivan Toney, I think we won all 10 headers against Saliba. So, he's just worked out the opposition, I think, and has adapted to that. And the players, that most of them have now had a year's Premier League football under their belt. They kind of know what they're doing. They're growing as a team. So, yeah, I mean, I'm touching everything here, but it's I don't know. None of us can believe it, really, to be honest, D.
Yeah. Look, it's from a neutral perspective. I don't think anyone even dislikes Brentford. I think you're a good, well-run club. I think everyone looks up to Brentford. In all honesty, looks up to how you guys even deal with your transfers, your manager, because it's smart moves that you make, and that's what makes Brentford such a good club. It's not like Brentford went and spent the highest in the league and all of a sudden they're doing well. It's because they've had good recruitment in place. But for you, before we talk about Thomas Frank, because I really want to talk about Thomas Frank, what are your expectations this season?
Well, I think we'll probably, if we can, this doesn't sound very ambitious, but if we can stay where we are, I think I'd be really pleased with that. Like we were saying off air just before we came on, I think that, we're in 8th and, looking really strong, but you've got to expect Liverpool and Chelsea to get their act together before long. And they've got much deeper squads than us. So April in particular is, we've got loads and loads of fixtures. We've still got one to rearrange against Man United, which will be either April or May. So I think the final 2 months, and we've got a really tough run in as well. So I think the final 2 months of the season might see us fall back a little bit. But we're playing so well at the moment that, if we can, get from, we're on 34 points at the moment. If we can get, another 4 or 5 wins out of the next, say, 8, then we should be able to hold on to 8th position. It'd be lovely to, in some ways anyway, to go for the European place. But Whether we've got the squad to cope with that next season, I don't know. But yeah, we're just delighted to be where we are. And if we can stay there or thereabouts, it will have been an amazing season for us.
And then build on next season. So it's not like it's the end of the world, even if you don't get European spots. Even though next season you would expect the likes of Liverpool and Chelsea to up their game a bit more and for it to be a bit more tighter in that aspect.
I think that's right. But I think, you know, we've got a fairly young team. You talked about Brentford's recruitment, and I know Ben Mee's not a great example, but you know, most of the players we're bringing in, a bit like Palace actually, seem to be like maximum age 22, 23 players that are being brought in for what they might go on to achieve, as much, not necessarily the finished article as they arrive at the club. So I think that, you know, that gives me confidence that we can sustain this. It's not just going to, we're not just going to be in the Premier League for 2 seasons. I think we can build and develop the players we've got to, you know, stay as strong as we are at the moment. Whether we can really push on upwards, I don't know. Time will tell. But
yeah, I think it's going to be harder for clubs like Brentford and Palace, especially with the big money that's involved with all them elite clubs. But talking about Thomas Frank, are you worried that he might leave in the future? Because that's been a massive talking point throughout these last 12 months. He's been rumored with numerous other clubs. But for me, I don't think Thomas Frank is the type of manager to leave in the middle of a season. And plus, he won't leave this season. But are you worried that in the future, if things continue as it is? Because what you said about Thomas Frank is it goes under the radar. But for a manager to adapt and to change it up against opposition and to look at opposition and manage to get results like that, that just shows you're a very good manager.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the most exciting thing about it. He can change it up. You guys do get results against the bigger sides or smaller sides, rather than the managers that have one style of football and that play that week in, week out. So for you, Thomas Frank, I know you're probably tired of talking about Thomas Frank being rumored away, because I know how it feels with, we talk about Zaha literally every year moving away from the club. So we have a similar position there. But is there any concern?
Yeah, I think so. And you're right. You know, whenever a vacancy comes up, his name's now kind of in the mix, isn't it? But
yeah,
I think, you know, he does talk about, he gives the impression that he wants to really see this through. You know, he talks about the project and that kind of thing. But, you know, it feels to me like he doesn't reckon that he's kind of got us to where we can yet. And I think he's kind of by nature quite a loyal person, and he's got everything he wants at Brentford. Yes, he's got limits on budget and so on, but you know, he's really been so much part of the journey that we've been on that I think it would probably take like a top 6 Premier League job, possibly the Danish national team manager role when that comes up, maybe a really big European side. But I think he's got such a good relationship with the club's owner. With, you know, he's really helped mold the club to, you know, in the way that he wants it to. They've backed him to the hilt. So I don't think there's any real reason other than maybe money and really being able to work with higher quality players. There's no real reason for him to move off anytime soon, I think. But inevitably, let's say that, I don't know, the Liverpool job came up, and I don't think they're going to get rid of Klopp, you know, anytime soon, despite the banter about it. But I think if that job came up, then he'd be crazy not to have a good hard think about it anyway. You never know, though, D. You know, we could see a downturn in results. Football is so fickle, isn't it? That if he loses the next 6, you know, he'll be described as being under pressure, and you know, a lot of clubs will start, their interest will start cooling. And but I think at the moment we're lucky that the vacancies have come up at clubs which are, you know, probably a bit unstable, like Everton, and you know, yes, they're bigger clubs, but they're not as well run. So he would know that he would probably lose about 2 years worth of momentum, I think, unless he went to an absolute top club.
Yeah, and I think he's a smart guy. I think he knows
Yeah,
not to leave just for the sake of money. I think the whole club as a whole, as you mentioned, like the likes of Everton, it wouldn't have made any sense for him to move there
no,
because for me, even though Everton are a bigger club than Brentford, is the way they run, you could be ending up in the championship and you could take,
absolutely. It's a
two, three
basket
steps
case,
back.
isn't it?
But
Yeah.
but talking about the game in a bit more detail, what are your main strengths and weaknesses so far this season for those who haven't watched Brentford?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, the defense is at the moment anyway rock solid, and we've got some key. A lot of our best players are in that back line. So you've got Ben Mee, who I mentioned. Rico Henry at left back is a real incredible kind of competitor. Really, really quick. He allows us to pile men forward on set pieces. We just put him on the edge of the box and no one's ever going to outpace him. So we can really put the pressure on and throw bodies forward. You've got Ethan Pinnock, who is one of the most underrated players in the Premier League. He's been an absolute giant for us in every sense the last couple of years. Well, he was a big part of us going up from the Championship as well. And he gives us total aerial dominance, so balls coming into the box, him and Ben Mee will just kind of head them away for fun, really. And then you got David Raya in goal, who just gets better and better. He's been brilliant this season. We've then got, and in front of them, we've got Christian Norgard, who's probably our best player. So he is our defensive midfielder, real fulcrum of the team. And then you've got that partnership which has just clicked the minute they walked into the Premier League between Ivan Toney and Brian Mbeumo. So we're getting goals as well. But I would say the real, it's all founded on an incredible kind of strong defence. I mean, there's been games, D, where we've been torn apart. So we lost, I think it was 4-0 or 4-1 to Villa. I got there 10 minutes late and we were 3-0 down already at Villa Park.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah, I remember that game. Away from home, right?
That's right. We got spanked at Newcastle 5-1 when we looked like an absolute joke. Arsenal beat us 3-0 at home and we didn't get a sniff in that game. So if you catch us on the wrong day, particularly away from home, actually the wheels can come off. But that's what's been so good recently. We've been pretty good week in, week out, really. But I'd say it's founded on the defence.
Yeah, the defence is definitely an area. And plus, we're struggling to score goals. So
yeah, I've seen that.
We'll talk about score predictions at the end, but I'm not expecting a high-scoring game. And previous results have suggested that as well. But in terms of Palace, what have you made of Palace so far this season? Have you been...
I think they're frustrating. I've got a soft spot for Palace. I lived in Croydon for the first few years of my life, so I've always kept an eye on their results. And I thought your recruitment was looking really smart as well. We were after Elise, and you got him, and we didn't, and we were all gutted about that. Particularly saying, what a talented player he is. Eze, we know well from the Championship. Really talented player as well. Zaha, he's actually, and I'm probably in a minority here of non-Palace fans, but he's one of my favourite players in the Premier League, has been for ages. He's just...
See, this is why we like Brentford fans. They know the football, they talk sense.
I love Zaha. I absolutely love the guy. He's a one-off in everything about him, and he's such an exciting player. So when I saw you lot assembling that side, I thought, wow, they're going to play some amazing... They're going to just be full of goals. And I thought your two centre-backs as well, when you got those two, they were as good as anyone in the league, I thought. So watching your results this year, it's been a bit disappointing, really. You don't seem to be scoring many goals. I'm not sure you've got you'll know better than me, obviously, but a proper goal scorer, a centre forward, who can rely. And that's where we're different, because we have got Tony, and he's going to score a goal every other game. That's what his career tells you. So my guess is that Palace are struggling to put the ball in the net. And like you were saying before, you got quite a few players out. I'm hoping they're still out, particularly Zaha. I hope he's still out on Saturday. But you're missing Anderson as well, aren't you? And
Anderson, we're not too sure. They might be back. He's a bit.
He's
a
good
hard
player
to
as well. I like him.
Yeah.
So I'd have thought that, you know, Palace are probably underachieving a bit.
Yeah, I think so as well. I
Yeah.
think majority of Palace fans, it's been a frustrating season, but I feel like recruitment, as you said, we brought in a lot of good players, but of course, not every, you know, it's hard for the neutral to follow every single club. But I think one thing that people haven't looked at is this season we brought in one or two good players, but we haven't brought in enough. For example, we got rid of Conor Gallagher. We got rid of Kouyaté to Nottingham Forest. James MacArthur, who's very old. So technically, we got rid of 3 midfielders, only brought in 1, and we had the likes of Jeffrey Schlupp starting in midfielder. So there's been weaknesses. There are still weaknesses in this Palace side. I don't think we made enough investment this season. But then again, it brings for a massive summer, and that's why, for me, the season pretty much is done. I don't think we'll go down. I don't think we'll finish higher than 12th, 11th. So it might be between 12th and 16th. But it's not that exciting. But of course, it's exciting for you guys, and this is a massive opportunity to get a win. So let's move on to score predictions. How do you see it? How do you see it going, Lewis?
Well, I was thinking about this before I came on the pod, but because just looking back, the 3 times we played each other in the Premier League, it's been a draw. So part of me doesn't want to say 0-0, but I can see it being 0-0. So that would be like real symmetry. I'm going to go 1-0 Brentford.
Yeah, I can see that happening as well.
I think you'll struggle to get many goals against us. At home we should be able to have the edge on you, I think. But all our history shows that our games tend to be really tight. So I don't think there'll be more than a goal in it, and I think we'll probably edge it.
Yeah, I want to go for 1-1, but it depends. It's very hard for me because I don't know who's going to be playing. If Zaha is fit, if Anderson is fit, I think our defense improves massively with Anderson there, and our attack, of course, with Zaha, everyone knows what he can do as well. So it pretty much depends. But I'm gonna go for 1-1. You've seen it. We love a draw against each other. I want to go for 1-1. I want to go for. I'm gonna stick with it. But then again, I was also thinking, I won't be surprised if it's 1-0 Palace. Because when you look at our fixture list, of course, we haven't won that many games, but I'm not taking anything away from Brentford. But we've got the likes of, Man City coming up. We got also Arsenal coming up. I know that's next month, but we got Liverpool coming up. And then when you look at the teams that's not around us, because Brentford have been better than us, it's one of them games that we've seen that we can draw against each other. We know that it's pretty tight, but it can go either way. You can go 1-0 Brentford, 1-0 Palace. So part of me saying I won't be surprised if it's 1-0 Palace, but I'm going to stick with 1-0. But let us know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Your score predictions ahead of the game. Are you feeling more optimistic, more worried about the game based on what Lewis has said? Make sure to check out the Beesotted Brentford podcast for all Brentford content. Thank you, Lewis, for jumping on. If you have enjoyed the content, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to not miss out on future Palace content. That's it from me and Lewis. And until next time, up the Palace.